World powers are engaging in a race to get the most advanced submarine warfare. Pakistan has acquired the first of the 8 newly built Chinese submarines, while Islamabad's addition of the stealth submarine has raised some serious concerns about Beijing's influence in the South China Sea and the larger Indian Ocean region. Now, analysts say that Pakistan's Hangar-class submarine is China's way of building pressure on India to ramp up its naval warfare. The Hangar-class submarines are equipped with advanced technology such as air-independent propulsion and new sensors. Now, the Hangar boats have greater endurance underwater. They can remain submerged for 10 to 14 days, which surpasses the usual 48-hour endurance of other diesel-type vessels. Currently, the Indian Navy is in talks with German and Spanish shipbuilding companies to build at least about 6 air-independent propulsion, that is, or AIP-equipped submarines. So as China supplies the stealth submarines to Pakistan, world leaders are worried that Beijing's assertion of power in the Indian Ocean region could actually grow. In line with this, the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has met with counterparts from Australia, Japan and the Philippines, as the US deepens its ties with an emerging regional group that Pentagon officials have privately nicknamed as the Squad. The quadrilateral grouping is one of a number of regional partnerships that Washington has used to push back against China's assertiveness in Asia. The United States Defense Chief at the military headquarters highlighted China's growing territorial assertions.
Unfortunately, the People's Republic of China continues to engage in increasingly coercive behavior. And we can see that across the Taiwan Strait, in the East and South China Seas, among the Pacific Island countries, along the line of actual control with India, and more. You know, the PRC is the only country with both the will and increasingly the capacity to dominate the Indo-Pacific and to reshape the global order to suit its autocratic vision. And that's why the PRC remains the department's pacing challenge.
All right, now to give us more perspective on this, we have with us retired Commodore Uday Bhaskar, who is joining us from New Delhi. He's also a director of the Society for Policy Studies. Now, Commodore Bhaskar, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us here on WION. And let me actually ask you this. Now, Pakistan acquiring the very first of its newly built Chinese submarines. What is your take on how that could change, you know, the balance of power of sorts, if one could put it that way, within the Indian Ocean region?
I characterize Pakistan acquiring these Chinese designed and built submarines with AIP, air-independent propulsion, as a significant development in the Indian Ocean in terms of the punctuation of the underwater domain. Because a submarine is a very potent platform, and the lethality of the submarine is defined by its endurance to stay underwater, which means to be almost invisible. So as you pointed out in your report, a conventional diesel submarine has to come to the surface almost every 2 days at the very maximum, if not earlier, depending on the operational tasking. Whereas the AIP allows the conventional submarine to stay underwater from 10 days to almost 20 days, depending on the capacity and the efficiency of the submarine AIP design and the competence of the crew. So it's an increase of 5 to 6 times in terms of the endurance. And as and when Pakistan gets all 8 AIP boats, as they are called, the Hangar class, all 8 AIP submarines, it would definitely pose a serious challenge to India's security planners, not only in the Arabian Sea, which is the geography of Pakistan, but also in the Bay of Bengal. Because what we have to also remember is that China is supplying submarines to Bangladesh also. So when you are preparing for undersea operations, submarine operations, it's very important to be able to recognize the signature of the submarine.
Right.
So this was done in the Cold War also, meaning that if you have the same kind of design with 2 or 3 navies, it can complicate the underwater tactical picture. So that, in summary, is the challenge that India would have to deal with, because and this is the critical part, India does not have AIP-capable submarines as of now. We are seeking to acquire them,
Right.
but it's been delayed for a variety of reasons. So you will have Pakistan with AIP and India without AIP.
So how does India counter something like this? Because Pakistan is getting this technology and these submarines from the Chinese, and these are clearly being given by the Chinese to the Pakistanis to, in many ways, project power within the Arabian Sea and in the larger Indian Ocean region, and this affects India directly. So how does India counter this?
Well, India has to invest in its navy in a far more robust manner. Currently, the Indian Navy, it's often called the Cinderella service, gets the least allocation. It's also the smallest in size. If you look at the Army, Air Force, Navy ratio in India in terms of personnel, it's almost 22:2:1 in terms of personnel. If you look at the budgetary allocation, the Indian Navy gets about 16 to 17% of the total defense budget. This has to increase progressively. Now, it's a very challenging question because India has a very modest defense budget and there are many demands. But to me, the answer is to increase investment for the Navy, and concurrently, the national ecosystem of design and manufacture in the maritime domain, particularly in submarine building, has to be stepped up significantly, because AIP is the kind of technology that countries will not part with. They are almost like the crown jewels when we talk about conventional submarines. So India will have to invest in design for conventional submarines, as also for AIP, air independent propulsion. We are on that path, but it's a very difficult path, and our decision making has not been as nimble as it ought to be. Saleh?
All right. We'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Commodore, for joining us and getting us that perspective there. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.